Alrighty, let's get these shims out of here. We're going to need our tool list. We're going to need a magnet. And if you're old and blind like me, you're going to need a magnifying glass. You're going to need an old, just a rag, okay? And we're going to need our shim paperwork. It had all of our clearances on there. Now I've already done the numbers, but I'm going to show you how to do it. It's just to save time. I'm just going to do the number 1 exhaust, and you'll get the hint of what's going on, and then you can just do it all the way down the engine. Okay, let's get started. We're just going to take our magnet, grab that bucket, we're going to pull it straight out, and 99% of the time that shim is going to be inside there, and we're just going to pop it out. Okay, now right here on the side has our number, so I'm going to pull out my magnifying glass and read it. That is 175. Okay, once I get my number, I'm going to clean it with my rag. And I'm going to stick it back down on there. Just press it in. And when you look at this bucket, we're just going to look at the bucket and make sure there's no gouges, deep scratches, a little bit of scoring, but it's not bad. Because on the sides, that's kind of normal. You just kind of see it, that little shade, different kind of a shade on there. That's normal. Just normal wear. You can tell the difference. Okay. Grab the second one. Okay, now on this one, sometimes that cap does get stuck in there. So you can just lift it up. Okay. We're going to measure it. That says 170. Give it a quick wipe. Stick it back down on there. Grab our bucket. Kind of clean it off there. Now, if you pull that cap and you do not see a number, I'm going to show you here 1 second how to figure out what it is. If you have a caliper or like a vernier caliper, you can actually get a micrometer. I'll show you how to do that. Okay. Set that bucket down. So we'll grab our sheet. We got a 175, 170, and just do that throughout the whole thing. Okay. And then when you're done, I'll show you how to do those numbers and how to find the number on the shim if it doesn't have a number on it. Okay. Now, there's another interesting thing I found out about this engine is if you look at the speedometer, it has 10,799 on there. But if I look at the wear and tear on these buckets and inside this motor and even outside the motor, all this paint wearing off, my guess is this engine has around 30 to 40,000 miles on it. And that's my opinion. I don't have any proof of it, obviously. Sometimes you can look at the title, and if it says original mileage, or it'll say mileage may not be actual, might give you an indicator. But my opinion, sometime in the past, that speedometer has been replaced. Now it may have, let's just say, 30,000 on the actual engine, and the speedometer breaks, and then of course you buy a new speedometer. And somebody might have found a speedometer had 10,700 on it. Either way, I can tell you right now that's not the original mileage. Okay. Food for thought. Check the shim and it has no number on it. This is the way to check it. So here's one thing we're going to look at first is I made this little diagram of the lobe, and if I measure that clearance at 10. 0.10 millimeter. Well, I know that it needs to be 15 because here's my measurement that it needs to be. So if I pull that shim cap off and I see 170, I know that I need to drop to a 165 to make it 15 clearance. And that's how we're going to kind of do this. And you can look at your chart, or you can just do the math by hand, and I'll show you how to do both. Some people don't have access to that chart. Okay, now this is our example of a 160 shim and how we come to this measurement. If I grab a shim and I don't know the number, and this 160 is not on the side of that shim, and if I measure that shim, I can see that its length would be 385. Well, all Yamaha skirts are 2.25. So if I take the 385 length and I minus the 2.25 skirt, it'll give me a 160. And that's how we measure it. If you don't know the number and it's rubbed off, or you just grab a shim, just measure the length, see what it is. I'll give you an example. A 170, I know that if I measure the length of that shim, I know it's 395. So it's got a 225 skirt, and I take 225 off the 395 to give me a 170. That's how they come up with these numbers. It's the thickness of the material and thickness of that shim, and that's how that works. Okay? Now here's the actual XJ700X chart. It'll pretty much say the same thing. If I have a 170, I just measure what I measured. If I measured a 10 and I had a 170 and I measured a 10, it'll tell you I need a 165. Right, it says it right there. If I measure that gap and it's 0.27, 23 to 27, it'll tell you. You bump up to 185 or 190, 180, whatever it is. It'll tell you here your measurement and the shim that you have. It'll tell you what to put back in there. Okay? That's how that works. And that's for the intake. And then, of course, there'll be another chart for your exhaust. It'll be on the back. I made this one on the back, so I have the sheet. So I have my exhaust numbers, and I've got my intake numbers. And you can get this off the internet. It's pretty easy to find. Okay? Now here's where we're going to do the math. Here's how we're going to calculate it. And it's real easy. Make some room here. Okay, well now when I did my sheet, here's my exhaust. Cylinder 1. Okay, cylinder 1, my exhaust. I had a 175 shim in here, and it gave me a 0.22. And in the second valve, I had a 170, and it gave me a 0.23. So now we're just going to extrapolate it out here. This 175 gave me a 22, and this 170 gave me a 0.23. Now, this 22 is in spec, so I can leave it alone, or I can bump it up a little. Let's just say I bump it up a little. And I'll put a 170 in, and I'm going to add 5 to that, so it's going to be 0.27 gap. So a 175 gave me a 22 gap, a 170 will give me a 27 gap, and I'm still in spec. This is on the low end, that's on the high end. Same thing here. I had a 170, give me a 23 gap. I can put a 165 in there. Okay? And that'll plus 5 to that will be 28. So if I want a 28 gap, I'll put a 165 in there, which is still in spec, and that's kind of where I want it. Kind of a 25, between 25 and 30 is where I want it. Of course, 28 falls in that. So if I can leave it alone, or I can switch it out. It's up to you. If money's a factor, leave it alone. If money's not a factor, throw them in. Same thing here. You can just extrapolate it out. 175 gave me a 23 gap. A 170. Of course, you add 5 to that. Same here. It'll give you a 28. Now, we can't drop a 165 because it would go over that amount. So if it was 165, we had 5 of that, it'd be in the 30s, it'd be 33. So you can't do that because we'd be over. So that's what it would be. Those are your two options. Here we have 172, giving me a 23 gap. I could drop to a 170. Of course, that would give me a 0.25 gap. If I put a 165 in there, of course 5 in there, it'd give me a 30 gap. Okay? So 23, you got a 65, and that's 7. So you got 5, 6, 7. 7 and 23 gives me my 30. Now 30 is a little high, but it is in spec. I'd be more happy with this 170 right here. Okay, and we can just do that throughout the whole thing. Let's try it. Okay, 170 right here. Give me a 23 gap. If I drop to 165, it gives me a 28 gap. Okay, 175. Give me a 23 gap. Let's try 170. So add 5 to that. It gives me a 28 gap. Okay, same thing here. 175 would be the same. 0.23. 170 gives me a 28. Here we have that oddball factory shim, 178. Gave me a 0.24. If I go 175, there's a 3, so that'd be 0.27. If you give you 170, of course it goes over. That's not going to work. So then we can cross that off. So right now we're looking at consistencies. That 30 might be a little high. You can cross that off. So now these are your options. Leave it alone, or we can bump it up. And these are pretty consistent. 22, 23, 23, 23, 23, 23, 24. If we bump it up, pretty consistent. 27, 28, 28, 25. That'd be okay with that. 0.25. 28, 28, 27. I'd be happy with either one of these. Now, if you want to leave it alone, that's fine. If you got the money and you can afford the extra shims, bump it up. It'd be fine. It'll last longer. You know, of course, instead of adjusting at 10, you might go to 20,000 before you have to adjust these. Either way, either one of these are acceptable. Leave it alone, or we can bump them up. Either way. Okay, those are the exhaust. Now here's where it gets a little interesting on the intakes. Now this is an exploded view of the intake, because we got some odd numbers in here and a lot of low numbers, and I'll show you how to kind of extrapolate these out. Okay, now our adjustments here are between 11 and 20. Get out of the way. Okay, so let's extrapolate this out. If I put in a 180, that only bumps me up to 15. If I put a 175, of course that gives me a 20. Here's the 180. If I drop it to 175, of course it gives me a 0.15. If I drop this to 170, of course it's going to give me a 20. Here we have a 185, gave us a 13. 180 will give us 18. So start looking for consistencies. Of course, this isn't an option, 180, because we can't stay with 10. So here's an option, 170 to 15. And like I say, that 182, I'd probably get rid of it to make it 15, because I kind of want those in the middle. So we can cross that option off. And then same thing here, this 13, I'd cross it off. And I'd go with a 180, and this is pretty consistent. 15, 15, 18. Or we could do 20, 20, 18. But I kind of want to stay under that 20, maybe 19 and below, maybe between 15 and 19. So in my opinion, I'd cross these off, kind of keep them consistent between 15 and 19. So there's our between 15 and 19. I'd be more happy with this than I would the 220s and the 18. That's just my opinion. Okay, let's extrapolate these out. 180 gave us an 07. 175 give us a 0.12. A 170 is going to give us a 0.17. Okay, so we know that this isn't an option. And actually that 12 is not really an option, because I kind of want it in that 15 area. But if we look here, I can't go 165, because then that would put us over 17. Okay, so that's not an option. So that's a better option. Okay, same thing here. We've got a 182. We drop that to 180. That's only going to bump that gap up to 12. Same thing there. If I go to 175, that'll only give us a 17, and I'm happy with that. So 182 is not an option, and the 180s wouldn't be an option. So, and even then, it's consistent, 17. And I'm still consistent up here with a 15, 15, and an 18. I'm still consistent, okay. And the same thing here, this would be the same. 182 gave us an 08, so 180 give us a 10. That's not an option. My pen's running out. So we're going to go to 175. That'd give us a 15. That'd be the better option. So that's not an option, and that's not an option. So this would be my options: 17, 17, 15 on cylinder number 2. And we can do that the same with cylinder 3. Be the same thing. You just extrapolate it out. Find your best options. If I had another pen, I could do it. I can put it on pause, get another pen, and I'll show you. Okay, hold on. Alrighty, I got a new pen. It's always something. Okay, same thing here. We have a 188, gave us a 10. We can go 185, give us a .13, and go 180. Okay, 5 to that, be 18. Okay, so we take a 188, minus, and the 180 is 8, 10 and 8 is 18. Okay, let's keep moving. 180 gives us a .16. 175 might put us over. So 75, 5, it gives us a .21, so that's not an option. Okay, 182 is not an option. This 188 is not an option. I would say this 185 is not an option because here I have an 18 and a 16. So I want to be consistent with this one. So here it'd be 180. It'd be a .16. Same thing there. I can't go 175. That'd give us 21. So that's not an option. And let's say 182 is not an option. Okay. So here's our option. Be 18, 16, and a 16. Let's see what this one does. 182, 180. That gives us .10. 175. .15. 170. .20. So we can cross off this, not an option. That's not an option. Because again, we're looking for 11 to 20. So here's our two options. Let's see what else comes out to. And then we can make our decision. So we have a 188. We can go 185. It gives us a .07. So 180 is a 12. 175 would be a 17. Of course, 170 would put us over. So we can cross this option, cross off this option, cross off that option, so we know that that's correct. Here we have a 180. Give us a 12. 175 gives us a .17. Of course, 170 would put us over. That'd be 22. So we can cross this option and that option. And we're pretty consistent, 15, 17, 17, so I'd cross this one off. So this would be my options right here. That's what I'd put back in. So when I get to cylinder number 3, that first block, I'm putting in a 175 to get that 15. Okay? And that's pretty consistent with the rest of the cylinders. I want it consistent with each other and then consistent with all the other cylinders. Let's see down here what we had. 18, 16, 16, still good. Flip back over. We had 15, 15, 18, still good. 17, 17, 15, still good. And that's how that's done. Okay. Alrighty, this is the last part of part 6. Will be part number 2 here. Alright, I got everything worked out from the worksheet, transcribed over here for my intakes. And this is what we come up with here, 180, 175, 180, all the way across. Now, just because that says 180, remember we had our worksheet from 1, doesn't mean you can't mix and match things. Like, see this 180? I know I'm going to put a 180 in this, or 170 in this spot, so that 180 can come out and go over here. You see? And this is one of your options. So like that 180 comes out, and you can just make a line right here to where it wants to go. So that 170 takes that spot. Now I'm freed up a 180, so that 180 can go right into here. And that 182 can go somewhere else. Same here as the exhaust. I'm going to make one change on my exhaust. These others I'm leaving alone. Everything seems to be pretty good. I'm happy with these numbers. I am going to make one change. I'm going to put a 170 in this spot, and that bumps it up to 25 gap. So look what happens. That 172 is freed up now. It can take this spot. So this gap will be now 25. And now that frees up a 175. So if you look down at your sheet, 175 can go here. So just because you know, you may not have enough shims on hand, you have enough shims here in the spots already. So just to give you an example one more time, I'm going to take this 172 out. I'm going to put a 170 in, and that's going to make this gap 0.25, which I'm still in spec. I'm right in the middle where I want to be. And that 22, in my opinion, is just too low for what I want to do. Before I make the 6 to 10,000 miles, that one's going to go bad. So let's prevent that. So I'm going to put a 170 in here. I'm going to take that 172 and put in here. And now that frees up a 175, I can drop down here. That frees up a 180, I can put here. You see what I mean? This 180 can just go right here in the third spot. See, that's another 180 I don't have to buy because it's already here. That 175 can go here. 180 can go here. Now I'm freed up with a 185. They might be able to go somewhere else or in another bike. You know, you can hold on to them, fit it in another bike. You know, I'm just saying there's other options you can do. You know, of course, if you're on a budget, you know, you have to make things work. If you're not on a budget, then it wouldn't matter. But use what you have. They're free. They come with the bike. They're free. So I'm going to put a 170 here because I have the 170 on hand. Frees me up a 172. Can go here. That frees up a 175 I can put in here. This 180 is freed up I can put here. I got a 185 can go somewhere else. And a 182 I can put somewhere else. You know, you can just work your numbers out. You have your worksheet. We already made out our worksheet. And go from there. Alright. Another thing I want to cover is the measurement of the shims. Now this is something I covered in the last block, but I want to make it a little more precise. I told you that a 160 shim had, you know, if you measured it, and it's not numbered, so it's a Yamaha manufacturer shim cap, and the numbers on the side, it would look like this, 160, there's your measurements. If it's a Yamaha manufactured cap and the number's not on the side, it wore off, then it's still the same. I order from XJ Forever first. They've got pretty much everything you need. Number 2 is Partzilla for Yamaha manufacturer. If xjforever.com is empty and Partzilla is empty, then my third one is Precision Shims of Australia. Now they don't put numbers on the sides, and they use a 2 millimeter skirt. Yamaha's 225. Well, they use a 2. Doesn't matter. Now they're not going to have any numbers on here, but it's still a 160 because remember we're measuring 160 from this point. They're both the same. The only difference is the Precision Shims of Australia, they use a 2 millimeter skirt. Well, it's not a big deal. 2 millimeter 160 gives me 360. So if you measure a Precision Shims and you pick up a shim and you don't know what it is, or they get mixed up, or you drop them and they're all the same, well, you can just measure them. It's a 360 will give you a 160 because you know it's a 2 millimeter skirt. And the 160, then I know when I measure it, it's 360. And that has happened. I dropped some shims into another container. They're all mixed up. Well, I just pull them out and measure them, and I put them where they were supposed to go. So that's how you do that. Yamaha manufacturer, 2.25 skirt. Precision Shims Australia, they use a 2 skirt. And that's it. That's all I wanted to cover. All right, good luck, and you can always make comments if you need any help. All right.